Hello and welcome in this new video where we will create the knots for our vertical ropes. Okay, what do I mean by that is basically, as you can see, when we created the vertical ropes, there is this intersection point, which basically they are just intersecting each other's mesh. And this doesn't look good. So instead of doing that, here's another thing that we can do. Basically, instead of them colliding that way, what about we create some sort of a loop that goes like you're seeing right now? So that will give us like, hey, the illusion like that's how they're both connected, and it will just make the whole result look slightly better and more realistic. And to do this, it is actually super simple. As you can see, when I did that, I did draw a circle. So what we will need is basically to add a curved circle. Go Shift A and let's add a curved circle. Where is the curved circle? Curved circle. It is this one. For whatever reason, it got inside the vertical ropes label, so hit Alt P to remove it from that label. And let's start working on this curved circle. First of all, I cannot see it because I need to join it with the rest of the geometry. And instead of actually joining it with this join geometry that is really far, I'm just going to add a join geometry right here. So let's go Shift A and let's add a join geometry. Let's put it here and let's connect this to this, and it should be visible, as you can see, and it will always also follow the position of all of these different ropes, which is really good. The main reason I did that, so that basically also the transformations that I will do on the curved circle, they will always basically get carried out along the node tree, which means they will always get carried out and they will basically get instanced multiple times and all of that without the need actually to basically replicate all of these operations. So yeah, this is the benefit of creating this join geometry and then feeding it to the rest of the node tree. So after this curved circle, as you can see, it is a little bit too huge for my taste, so we need to change the radius. And for the radius, as you can probably remember, if we go to add group, we do have the rope radius, so let's just connect it to the radius. They are really probably small, that's why we cannot see them. So let's make them bigger by adding a math node. Let's add a math node, let's put it here, and let's just add a smaller number, let's say something like 0.015, which will just make them slightly bigger, and you will see why. So after doing that, we need to tell Blender where to put them. So let's add Shift A and let's add a transform node, which will allow us to transform the position of all of these different circles. And for this, let's probably, they should be rotated on the x-axis 90 degrees. So in the rotation for the x, let's type 90. And they should also, on the z-axis, they should be 90. So they are looking something like so. And they should also not be right here, but they should actually be on the top part, which is right here. So to do that, let's add a transform node, another one. So transform, let's put it here. And I need to change the location basically on the z-axis. They should be on the top. Let's say in our case, they will be 5, let's say. Yep. Perfect. They should be 5 in terms of height. But here's the trickiest thing. We need also to update the location of all of these different circles, also based on the rope height. So whenever I change the rope height, they should also follow. So for this translation, for the data about the Z translation, we should get it from the rope height. And if you remember, we do actually have a socket right here, which is called rope height. It is this one feeding to this. So to do this, just take this point and let's plug it also to the translation and do Shift to create a reroute node, and let's do this. Or actually, instead of even doing that, we can probably let's think about it. Well, actually, I'm going to delete this one, X, and instead of that X here, actually, I'm going to get the result out of this combine XYZ and plug it to the translation, and we should be good to go. And right now, whenever I change the rope height, everything will follow. Yep, this is looking good. So this combine XYZ node is outputting the data about the Z axis that we need to control the rope height. And that's exactly what we're using to tell Blender where to put all of these different circles. We're going to clean up this mess that we created later on, but for now, we guarantee that all of these different circles will always follow the rope height. And the last thing that we need to address right now is basically to turn all of these circles to a mesh. And to do that, we need another node, which is called curve to mesh, which we used before. And I'm going to basically put it actually after this transform and before this transform between them. So basically after I set up the position, I'm going to turn them to a mesh, which will later basically get transformed into the right position. So let's put it right here. And for the profile curve, let's go Shift A and let's add a curve circle, another one. Let's plug it to the profile curve. It is so huge right now. First of all, let's change the resolution to something like 6. And let's bring down this to something like 0.02. And this will look something like so. I feel like the radius is a little bit too much, so let's try 0.01. Well, let's keep it at 0.02 for now. And for the radius, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. Let's say 0.015. This is, I guess, is looking better. Yep. Yeah, this is way neater and way better, and that's actually what we will do. And we will keep all of these different values. The only thing I might change is only to change the resolution of this curved circle from 32 to something like 12 to just basically optimize the scene a little bit more. And this is looking pretty good, I guess. Let's clean up our node tree right now. Control space bar to maximize it. And yeah, let's start by cleaning this whole mess that we just created. So the first thing, let's address this really ugly purple line coming from this combine XYZ. Let's bring the node slightly here, shift to create a rerouting node, connecting both of these, and shift to create another one. Let's put it here, shift another one to put it here. And yeah, I think that this is good for now. It's kind of more readable, let's say. And what else? What else? There is this ugly join geometry node line going right here. Even though it is not that distracting, well, I might just bring this a little bit up so it is more visible. And I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. It is not that distracting because it is going straight to this join geometry. And the last thing, I'm going to select all of these nodes, Control G to group them, hit F2 to rename them, and let's call them knots. And bring the size, the label size, to something big like 64 so that we can see it. And that's basically it for how we created the knots for our vertical ropes. And I will see you everyone in the next video.